What is the name of our show?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Large Glass. My name is Todd.
I'm Terri.
And this is our weekly show where we bring you a new artist or art-related theme to talk about. How's it going? Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I am doing well.
Excellent. We are coming to you live again from our freezing cold basement, but we have this new thing.
Yes.
Which I'm thrilled about.
It's a heated floor.
We got a heated floor mat that Terri suggested we get, and now it's like... It's all nice and toasty down there.
Yeah. I've always heard that if your feet are warm or cold or whatever, they kind of dictate the rest of the way your body feels.
Yeah, because I was bundled up last week and had my feet on the cold floor, and I couldn't get warm.
Yes.
So there's John and Jess Park.
Hello.
And Mom is here. Hi. Good to see all of you, as usual.
Hope you can hear us.
I think they can hear us. They'd be hammering away at us right now if they couldn't. So,
yeah.
So what's new? What do we have to talk about? What do you guys have going on by you? I hope you're all, number one, I hope you're all well. I know that we are having a wave.
No, we haven't been.
We haven't been, but we're over it, and we're hoping that all of you are. There is 63 saying, hey, TNT. John Park says loud and clear. Nice. Ben Hagenbush is here. How's it going? Pumpkin Audrey is here. Thank you. Nice to see you. Yeah, I am just kind of like... I'm happy to be gone over that whole thing, but now kind of like I'm still afraid to kind of get it again. I know you're not supposed to be able to get it again, but I hear that you potentially could.
You could.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So episode 73 tonight.
Episode 73. We are going to actually pour some wine.
We're going to drink wine tonight.
Right. We've been dry.
We have.
Since before COVID.
Yes.
And so tonight, first of all, our artist tonight, who's coming to us live, is going to be drinking some wines that he was given as a gift.
Yes.
And he's going to be trying out a Rioja. So we decided to take a wine that we were given as a gift by Shirley Perlinsky, one of our supporters, by the way. Shirley, thank you. We're trying out that cab you got us, and we're very excited about it. So so here's that. And you already have a little bit. We were letting it breathe. We were letting it breathe a little bit.
Thank you.
Coming through nicely through the speakers. That is lovely. This is the Land of Saints, Cabernet Sauvignon.
Very cool label.
Yeah, nice little block print thing going on there. All right, so it's episode 73. John says, "Love my new eyeglasses." Thanks. That's nice. I appreciate that. They've got that blue blocking stuff in them for the screens, so that's why they've got that weird reflectivity. Episode 73. Thanks for coming. We're excited about tonight. Cheers.
Cheers. Ooh, haven't done that in a while.
Nice to see a little wine again. 63 says, had a Rioja over the weekend.
Ooh.
And those are great reds. Yes, they are.
Oh, Christina's here.
Christina's here.
Hey.
Hi, Christina. Nice to see you. Happy New Year.
Yes.
I know you popped in. I think it was last week you popped in briefly, and we didn't get a chance to say a proper hello to you. So, and 63 says, goes well with homemade pizza. Homemade pizza on the grill. Even
so
better.
Yummy. That is good.
Which, by the way, speaking of on the grill, and I'm thinking summer, we got a lot that's going to happen this summer. We're excited about a few things going on. And the first thing that we want to talk about is the 100 and Art Tour, which is coming up. And we're excited about that. So number one, this year we will not be participating in the tour the way we did last year. Last year, if you were with us, you know that we hosted their virtual opening at the Hunterdon Art Museum, which was fantastic. It was, I can't believe we pulled it off. There was a massive power outage in the middle of it. I mean, it was exciting. The weekend was good. There was a lot of art to see. We traveled all over the place. It was a great time.
It was.
This year, we are going to be participating as artists on the tour, so our studio will be open on the Sunday of that tour. Now, we will have all those dates for you coming up starting next week. We're going to start plugging that. But it's end of April, beginning of May, that weekend that falls in there. I don't have the calendar right in front of me for that, so Kathleen, if you're watching, or Catherine, if you're watching, my apologies for not having those dates at the ready for you. But we hope that you'll join us for that. Now, they've divided the county this year into each of the days. What they typically did was they made the large map of the whole county, and you could go to any artist studio you wanted on either Saturday or Sunday. This year, they're doing the western portion of the county on the Saturday and the eastern portion of the county on the Sunday. So our studio, since it's in the eastern side of the county, will be on Sunday, and you're going to be able to stop by and see us. Now,
that will be Sunday, May 1st.
Thank you very much. You pulled it up.
I did.
You're so good. Sunday, May 1st, our studio will be open. You can come and see us, number one. Number two, we're going to do a little live streaming from that. Number three, you're going to get to see her work, which is not something people normally get to see. Like, I throw my work on Instagram, but Terri's work is kind of... First of all, Terri's work is brilliant. You got to come see it. So, just plan on getting out for that.
You should see all the artists, though. There's going to be so many on the tour, and it's a really good time to get some local flavor, too.
That was a nice way to throw it back to them. Good job. Here's the thing. Let's say you are an artist in Hunterdon County and you have not yet participated in the tour. Get on that thing. It's money well spent. The tour is a fantastically organized group. It is a fantastic weekend of seeing work, talking about work. And if you're not from this area, Hunterdon County, New Jersey is a beautiful place to come and visit, especially in the spring. Drive around, support some artists, go to Frenchtown, go to Lambertville, go to Flemington, go to all those, places where these awesome artists live.
Yeah, and I do believe if you purchase art pieces at the museum, part of it goes to the artist, but part also helps to pay for the tour, and the other part helps to pay for the museum. So
that's correct.
It's a win-win-win.
All of the artists that are on the tour will actually be in an exhibition at the Hunterdon Art Museum, which would open the Friday night that kicks off the tour. If you purchase a piece in that show, that money, that pie, gets divided a number of ways, both supporting the tour and the museum, which is what you just said. I'm repeating you.
That's okay.
So let's see. 63 says fly fishing at the gorge and art on the same day. How cool. Yes.
There you go.
I love that, and I'm going to come with you. My mom is saying your work is out of this world.
Oh, thank you.
Christina says, yay, great to hear. Mike Rader is here. Hoping you're both feeling 100%. Boo Jazz is here. Hi, Boo Jazz. Good to see you. Mike, I hope this lets you know that we're feeling 110%. We're back up to speed. Christina says, huge fan of Terri's work.
Oh, thank
you.
Thank you.
Boo Jazz says, road trip May 1st, eh? Well, it's been how many years since we met you in the very town of Clinton, Boo Jazz?
Yes.
So yeah, we would love that. Yeah. Speaking of the local scene.
Yes. We're going to talk about Whittemore for a little bit as well, because they are part of the local scene. It's an organization that champions community, culture, and conservation. They do a lot for us, and we absolutely love them. It's 180 acres of conservation area bequeathed to the town of Tewksbury by Helen Whittemore. She was an active diarist and a nature lover, and she left her whole estate to the community. And what they do there is they have art shows, they have concerts, they have children's programs and camps and all kinds of great activities. They have nature trails and a sculpture garden and a regular garden.
They have guided meditations. They have Pilates. They've got all kinds of events. Carolyn Thau is the director. She does a fantastic job. I know that all the work she's done in promoting the arts there has actually just magnified so many times each year. She's managed to add something new every year. So get on out to Whittemore CCC. You can look them up on the web and get directions to them. It's highly recommended. Now, I'm not sure about their hours right now with the way things are in terms of the cold.
Well, there's the cold and then COVID and all of that. So they do have some restrictions, but you can check out their website and they list all of that on
That's
there.
whittemoreccc.org. And next week I will pop that up on the screen for you. But definitely check them out. So that's that.
Yes.
We love them. And by the way, speaking of support, this is the part where I always plug support for the show. So we have been slowly creeping up in terms of our numbers, which we're happy about because we feel like we do something that, well, first of all, we do something we love, okay? We feel like we do something that hopefully brings a good thing to you, which is the primary reason that we do this. And number three, slowly people are starting to notice, which I'm really happy about. And we have had some wonderful people on, all through this, of course. But lately we've really been surprised that we've almost been cold calling people that we really admire, like people that we've been looking at, but we're like, oh, we don't really know them well, or we don't know someone who knows them well. And so, you kind of like throw it out there and you're like, hi, we'd really love to have you on the show because we love what you do and we would just really enjoy talking to you and bringing what you do to our audience.
Yeah.
And
then they say yes.
And then we get yeses and it feels really good.
Yeah.
And we're like, wow, there's still beauty in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've got a cool lineup coming up, which I always, of course, spout on about at the end of the show. But next week we've got artist Dean Snyder coming on the show. The week after that, we've got Pam Glick coming on the show. We've got some interesting things happening coming up.
Yes, we do.
And did I miss anybody on there? I did. I missed Elsa. Elsa Riveros is coming on the show. Sorry. Yes. Dean Snyder, Elsa Riveros, Pam Glick. So those are the three that are coming up. Elsa Riveros is awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And she's one of those people you can go down the rabbit hole with. So she does all kinds of cool stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's see. Where are we on time?
8:11.
Okay, so just to finalize in terms of supporting us, you can support us in a number of ways. Number one, you can head over to thelargeglass.org. There's a big fat button for support on there, and there's all kinds of options of ways that you can support us. And we would really appreciate that. It helps support the show. It helps keep us going. So thank you to you in advance if you do that. Another way you could support the show is you could actually do what people like One Good King do and John and Jess Park do, where they gift subs on Twitch out to all their friends. And then you can become the sub king at the top of the chat. So get your name on the top of the chat as somebody who just generously gives away subscriptions to our channel. That's another good way. And JD Painter tuned in and looking forward to February 22nd. That's Josh Dorman, who is actually coming on the show on February 22nd. And we are really, wait a minute, my brain is so fried. Okay. Yes, February 22nd, Josh Dorman. I'm sorry. So Josh, just to explain why this happens, is we have this huge board over on our side here that's got all our dates on it, but we have to turn the light off on the board. Otherwise, Terry's face gets lit up too bright.
I'm a little pale.
So it's hard to see.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, we say a date, and I'm like, wait, I can't see the board anymore. Anyway, and there's One Good King doing exactly what I just said anyone could do. So now you'll notice that up on the top of the board, he becomes the leader for gifting 5 tier 1 subs. So it's like that sense of competition could all of a sudden come out in you and be like, no, I can do better than that. And then you gift some subs. Anyway, long story short, please support the channel if you can. Thank you so much. I won't say another word. Would you like to start introducing tonight's artist?
Yes, I would love to. So he was going to join us back in September, but things kind of crackled here and there, but he's with us tonight. So tonight's artist has a current show up entitled Internal Ballistics, the Design, Politics, and Human Toll of Firearms in America. At the 5 Point Arts Gallery in Torrington, Connecticut. It's up until tomorrow. Just gonna scroll down here for a second. He's an artist and educator who holds a bachelor's in art from Central Connecticut State University and an MFA from RISD. He served as the artist assistant to Solowit and the LeWitt collection for approximately 8 years. He's taught in several prestigious universities and is currently teaching at the Parsons School of Design, as well as Central Connecticut State University. He's curated shows, and he exhibits his work mostly in galleries along the northeastern coast of the United States. I'd like to welcome Glenn LaVertu.
Hiya, Glenn. How's it going? Cheers.
Hello, everybody.
Cheers.
All
Nice
right.
to see you. Yeah. How's the Rioja tonight?
It's good. It's very spicy.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, I was going to say if we both had Riojas, we could compare, but I don't know if comparing a Rioja to a cab is necessarily a fair comparison, right?
I don't know. Cabs are great.
Yeah, no, cabs are great, but
I think they're nice
Yeah.
winter wines. You know, they're hardy.
Yeah.
and yeah, they're good.
Totally. That makes sense.
Yeah.
yeah, this one's nice and robust. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get into some of those descriptives later. So, Glenn,
Mhm.
how is your show going in Connecticut, the show that you have up right now? We're curious about how it's been received and what's going on.
It's pretty good. It's kind of a bad time for it in the sense that everybody's scared of COVID and they don't want to go to galleries, and it's ice cold.
Mm.
Right.
So,
Right.
it's been, kind of slow going, but quality. So, quality over quantity, I think is the key.
Yeah.
But it's been good. It's a good, it looks good. I'm happy with it. So that's all that really matters.
So you mean the people that have come to visit have been noteworthy people that have made the trip? That's good.
Mhm.
That's good. I'm sorry that we have not gotten a chance to get up there. I apologize about that.
It's a long trip. So, yeah.
Well, and I also feel like you and I have been in so much communication about this particular show that, I've kind of been there to some degree with you. So that's a good thing. Well, we wanted to start by, I had originally intended to start by talking about some of your older work and what might have sort of built up to this, but you suggested we started out with a couple of the drawings that are featured in the show. And we talk about those, and then maybe we'll go backwards in time to look at some of your earlier work. So we've got this one image up here, and you had mentioned to me that there's an interesting story behind it. So maybe you can kind of lead us in by telling us what that is.
Right. So this one I did right when, it was that first COVID semester where everything got cut off. And so I had to come up with a project for the students to do. They were doing still lives. So I had them do still lives at home. So what they were supposed to do was send me pictures of the still life, the actual photographs of whatever they've set up. Pick 5 of their favorite objects, arrange it on a table or whatever kind of situation, and then send it to me. And I got lots of, anime stuffed toys and whatever. But then I got this.
Wow.
Yeah. I got a student who sent me his Glock, and Jack Daniels nip, and the whole thing. The only thing that's not at all like what he sent me is the text, obviously.
Okay.
But he sent this to me, and so I started doing the drawing because his was just so off. And I realized it just sort of fit into all the drawings I'd been doing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I included it in the show, and it turned out to be a really interesting drawing because the backdrop, I was really interested in these weird abstract, color gestural sort of things, and just trying to make something happen on that. So I was doing that alongside him. His turned out okay.
How did he like
Pretty
yours?
good.
How do you like yours?
He never, I don't think he ever saw the final thing. So,
Oh, no kidding. Huh.
and I had sent him an email. I sent him, when he first sent the image, I thought this could be a problem. Like, is everything okay? Are you, are you depressed? And he didn't have any inkling. He didn't understand that, this could be the interpretation, that this
wow.
could be a call
Yeah.
for help. But it was there.
Huh.
And I contacted him, and I let school, the proper school authorities know just that this was going down just in case.
Right.
But but it turned out good, and it was
Well,
interesting drawing, so
so
I drew it in the show.
But before COVID even happened, before this drawing and the story you just told even happened, you had sort of been delving into the research around the culture and design of guns and firearms, and really looking very deeply into this subject, and starting with drawings primarily before the sculptures came along. But what sort of pushed you down that road? How did you get there?
A lot of things. Okay, so the first thing was Sandy Hook. I remember the day that it happened. I was at Parsons. I was coming home.
And you live in you live in Connecticut, so you're coming home.
I live in Connecticut, so I was commuting home on the train, and usually the commute is kind of, there's always a drunkard on the train, and it's pretty loud and pretty wild, even on a Wednesday or Monday, regular day. But it's dead quiet, just silent, and I was looking around, what is going on? And everybody's just on their phones, completely silent. So I hadn't checked my own
Oh, so
phone.
you didn't know what happened yet?
I didn't know anything, so I looked it up, and there it was.
Gotcha.
So I thought then and there that, being an artist, I should probably say something about this problem that we have.
Right.
And it took me a couple of years because I didn't have any idea what I was going to say and how I was going to say it. So it happened. I went to a gas station. Connecticut is not an open or concealed carry state. So just to put that out there. So I went to a gas station, stood in line. A guy in front of me had his Glock, tucked into the back of his pants, and he wasn't very good at hiding that. And I thought, is this a good guy or a bad guy? And I didn't stick around to find that out. And the next day I went, I think that particular incident was the day before going into class down in New York. And I just started drawing that the next day. It just came to me, what I had to do. So the first things were like these demon things that you'll probably show. But this particular image is from, because I'm in Connecticut, I'm from Hartford, and it's sort of Samuel Colt's land. I decided to investigate Colt's firearms because I felt that they were kind of a good predecessor to a lot of the things that we have now.
Samuel Colt is from Hartford, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, the town that I live in now is where he was married. I live down the street from where he and his wife were married. It's really strange. Anyway, so I decided to go to the area museums and draw the guns that they had on display there. And this particular one they brought out to me. This is at the Connecticut Historical Society. And they brought this, I just sat in the back room, and they had this beautiful cloth, and they brought, put on the gloves. I actually held it for a while. And so it was kind of pretty wild. But I did a lot of sketches, and then I would take the sketches and do the larger drawing.
Gotcha. And, I think that, one thing that strikes me about this, because I've been following what you've been doing with this project for quite some time, and I've always been impressed by the level to which you dive into your research. The fact that, you're not just drawing these things from images you might look up on Google. You're at the actual place, the birthplace of this particular firearm, holding a historical, genuine article in your hand, talking to people that preserve these things.
Right, but what about the history behind this here? Because, you can't ignore the typography going on. So what's going on with the history here?
So what I would do is I would take the particular firearms and I would superimpose narratives that didn't actually happen, but they could have happened. And so it's sort of a way of extending the history of these objects into those events that happen now. So this is basically a murder-suicide, husband, wife and kids kind of a thing.
Okay.
So, so sort of the things that you hear about in the news and that seem to be, fairly prevalent nowadays.
But trying to put it in the historical context of that particular weapon, right?
Right. And you never know. This stuff could have happened back then. We just don't I don't have the
Sure.
kind of technology or right? But I really, what I was interested is in connecting now with the history of these objects,
Right,
of the
right.
gun.
And I want to come back to that because I have found there to be, and this is a question I'll have for you after seeing a few more images, but I have found there to be kind of a theme that kind of attaches itself to that in the work throughout the whole show. So let's look at a couple more of these drawings, but then I want to kind of go back in time a little bit just to look at some of your earlier work and see, how you got there. But can you tell us a little bit about this one?
So this is a firearm at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. It's a great display. It's a beautiful object. And it's right next to the Henry VIII armor, actually, if you're looking for it. But it sits in a glass case, pretty much exactly the way you see it here. It's engraved in gold. It's probably just commemorative, so it may have not been fired, or maybe once or twice. But it's kind of like a trophy. And it has the George Washington engraving and the eagle and the whole thing in there. So I decided to do a drawing of this at the museum and then change it around to like sort of, fit sort of the history of what's the history of these firearms to today, So I called this the Mulford Act, which the Mulford Act became a law that stopped open carry, the right to open and carry firearms in California. This was back in the 60s. What happened was you had that right, but the Black Panthers, they started walking around with machine guns, and white folk didn't like that too much.
Yeah, no surprise.
So they came up with this act and drafted it into law. And there's a great story where, and that's why I put I'm sorry if I'm back and forth here, but the George Washington with the the shackles, sort of grumpy George. That's sort of what I was kind of alluding towards there, maybe more than alluding. And then the "Who the hell do you think you are?" quote comes from an incident that happened with Huey Newton, who was one of the Black Panther members, who he walked out of a Cadillac, I think it was, and he had a machine gun in his hand as he walked out of the car, and a cop came up to him and said to him, "Who the hell do you think you are?" So I wanted to use the words of the white power, the men who are in wielding the power, sort of flip it on their head a bit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's going on with this one.
But you also do a really good job of flipping it from the standpoint of there is an exquisite craft to your drawing and your use of color
and typography.
And your typography.
Yes.
But it's sort of all sort of illustrating this other, it's beauty representing a kind of underlying ugliness, which is really, really quite interesting.
And what's the medium that you're using here? Is this a watercolor or?
So no, actually, it's India ink. This one's just like a cadmium red. I forget what red. Okay. It's very bloody anyway. India ink, and I mix a little bit of walnut ink with black India ink. So I would mess around with this kind of ground, this very hazy, kind of backdrop. I use crayons, and it's weird. I love crayons. Crayons are my favorite drawing tool. I particularly use the Caran d'Ache variety, the water soluble things. Because they could go really, you could go really rough and have a really soft kind of quality to it, or you could go really intense, bright, smooth, almost metallic sort of look, which is what I was going for. And then the gold is gold leaf.
Oh, nice.
Very exquisite.
You know, I said I was going to go back in time a little bit, but I kind of want to actually stay with the exhibition right now. Is that okay if we kind of move into some of the other? Because I would love to show the flip side of the coin here. You're working with these. You're working with crayons. You're working with India ink. You're working with very traditional sort of analog materials. But then you dove into some digital work, and some of the first, I believe, some of the first digital drawings you did were around this subject. And I remember watching you. I remember watching you actually work on some of these, and I found your exploration of a new tool, number one, to be fascinating, right? But number two, your first wielding of that tool produces an image like this, which is like fascinating. It's totally amazing.
So these came first. Yeah, these came first.
Oh, they did come first. That's right.
Yeah, they came right after the gas station thing. and largely because I had like an hour in the computer lab with nothing to do. So I thought, let's use this time wisely and figure this stuff out. And with the digital tool, I was, I wanted to make something that didn't look like a computer. I wanted it to look messy or, awful or whatever, so I was just kind of pushing it to that.
Right. And actually, I want to pop a comment up on the screen, which I think you're going to appreciate, because I know this side of it is in it for you. But hold on, it's coming. It's not coming. Well, maybe this will fail me tonight. If it does, I'm just going to read the comment. And it doesn't seem to want to work tonight. All right, I'm going to read it to you. But John Park says, I really like how you are capturing a lot of the detail of the embellishment and design of the stock and the wood. The fact is, a lot of these more fancy guns have a lot of craftsmanship behind them, and they can be quite beautiful in their handiwork. And I know that you completely invest yourself in that, correct?
Right, yeah. I mean, that's really a big part of this, is going to these museums, you look at these things, and they're just gorgeous, beautiful objects, just from the kind of metal they used, even the worn ones that were used at whatever point, the wood is gorgeous, beautiful things, right? But then you have to think who was on the other side of this thing. You don't do that to a sculpture, or a painting. You don't think, who? Well, I guess somebody could have died looking at a painting,
right?
But I mean, you have to think about the history of this thing. All of a sudden is sort of, it's a really important part, and then it becomes complicated to admire something like this. All of a sudden, you think about the history of it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's actually part of the inherent conflict in a lot of these discussions. Is and I actually want you to say this, because you make a really good point in one of your statements somewhere that basically talks about the object and how the objects make us. We make the objects, and the objects in turn make us. I find that to be a really fascinating thing. And in this case, these objects, because of that sort of inherent beauty, the craftsmanship, it's very, very hard to put them down. It's very, very hard to say, I'm going to give this up. Right?
Yeah. Sure. Right. Yeah. I mean, those are ideas that are not mine necessarily. I sort of, there's a lot of great philosophers on technology that are talking about this stuff. But, we have a relationship with all the objects in our lives. They're not just inert, objects. They're not cold and dead. They're alive if we're alive and using them. Right? I mean, and so it's that relationship that really is important, I think, to remember.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Actually,
I think 63 agrees.
63 is making a comment here. I'm going to pop that up. You know what? I hit John Park's comment so many times trying to get it to come up on the screen. It's just going to keep on coming up on the screen.
It keeps coming up?
Yeah.
We keep appreciating it.
Yeah, John, we love you. And, we just want your comment to be on the screen all the time.
Yes.
But 63 says, we make the objects and they alter us in their own ways, which I think is a really...
Exactly.
Yeah. That's
absolutely. Yes.
It's a great way
to
put it.
And if you think about any situation where it's a volatile situation, like in that fictional situation with the murder suicide, any volatile situation with a gun is very different than a situation without it. isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, suddenly the everything just ramps up, becomes a different thing.
Right,
Does.
right. That's true. I'm sorry, I'm just waiting for this comment. I'm going to see if this comment goes off the screen and then instantly comes back. And it does. All right, I'm going to just hang on. I'm going to get rid of it for now.
Speaking of having a relationship with objects.
Yeah, right, right. Even digital objects. So you've got a few of these digital drawings actually, and they all reference a kind of demonic presence. They're kind of these hybrids. When we look at, and I know Terry's going to ask you a similar question to this later, so I'm not going to try and double up on that, but we look at the sort of research and the exactitude that gets put into the drawing of the object, the weapon, but then we look at the more demonic side of it, and it seems to have a less it's a much looser reference system, right? It's kind of a more abstracted kind of presence. Would you say that's true, or did you kind of dive into the whole sort of legend and lore of demons and their histories?
I did.
You did? Okay, so maybe I'm totally wrong.
No, I did. So this is a Kalashnikov, which was designed by Sergei Kalashnikov, the general. So the demon is actually a Russian, based on Russian lore, called the Chort, which is a pig-like demon. I sort of made warthog, horns are cooler than no horns, I thought. So I just sort of superimposed those two things, like the Russian lore with, the Russian inventor or whatever he is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's true with all of them. So the previous one you saw, that was based on two different mythologies. One was, if you look in, Christian, the mouth of hell. There's a lot of medieval images of that, which I've always just absolutely loved. And also there's another lore, which is Native American, of a similar kind of thing, where it's a cave and this demon sort of almost abducts children and brings them into the cave. And that was on the firearm in that was from Columbine. So the firearms are also important as well.
So it was a Kalashnikov in Columbine?
No. The Kalashnikov is just the Kalashnikov. I just wanted to sort of talk about the designer with the.
Okay. I gotcha.
Right.
I gotcha. So, okay, so I'm going to keep moving through these because I mean this one's one of my favorites. This is was this the first one or one of the first ones?
No, it was the second or third. I don't remember.
This is amazing. I mean, I just look at the number of weapons that are sort of pointing down. There's this sort of mythological creature that's both sort of hypodermic needle-ish, but there's like so much going on in this image. So one thing I was going to say that I'm curious about, actually, were you gearing up for something?
Not for this particular one.
Okay. Then I'm going to wait also. I'm going to pop over and see another one. I'm trying to keep an eye on the time and make sure we get through a bunch of the work in this show before I wind up running out.
This one was the first one.
This was the first one. Okay.
Yeah.
Mike Rader Potato Head says, ever see Susan Phillips's wartime music pieces? She uses actual instrument
damaged in the war and has musicians play music through the war damaged instruments. Reminds me of what Glenn is doing with the first drawings we saw. That's interesting.
I do know those. Yeah,
you do.
Those are great.
That's a great reference. And this is, I know Terry's going to town now. She's looking that one up. So we're going to see if we can pull that up, and I'm going to keep running through. Let's take a look at, I just want to grab a couple of images of what the actual gallery looks like. So this is 5 Points Gallery in Torrington, Connecticut. This is the actual exhibition from the front door in. There's still a lot of pieces that you're seeing here on the screen that we have not actually looked at yet, but I just thought it would be a good idea to jump in and see that. Now, I know that there's the piece in the front window, and a lot of the work we've seen so far is two-dimensional, or all the work we've seen so far is two-dimensional. But then we get this, right?
This is beautiful.
And
it really is, especially when when you discover that you handcrafted the whole thing. This isn't, like a found object, and you repurposed it for our purposes. You actually carved the wood and created the pieces for it.
Even the tailstock, is it called the tailstock? The piece that's on the very end of the wooden stock, is that the piece that's on the very back end, that butt end? Even that is
buttstock, yeah.
The buttstock, that's even carved and cast. For those of you that remember the giveaway we had of Glenn LaVertu's flintlock and plate that we gave away way back last year, that's the pieces that are on either side of this gun. So those were some of the castings that he had made to make this actual weapon. And I remember when you brought me that piece of walnut and you were talking about actually carving that stock. So tell us a little bit about this one. And I'm curious about how the show, when people come in and see this, how they're receiving some of these things, because there's this dichotomy of, the beauty of like the dried flowers and the roses coming out of the gun, the gorgeous craftsmanship coupled with the message. Yeah. Like, how are people taking it?
I think, I get lots of great conversations with people, and when they stop through, if I'm there. So yeah, it seems like they get it and they're fascinated by it, which is probably the two things I really, a few of the responses is that they sort of get a chill in their, that's kind of the effect I'm going for in a way, with certain pieces. But certainly.
Do you wind up, though, with people that are sort of not necessarily in alignment with what you're talking about?
I get like this is the fun part. I am completely fascinated by this because I don't understand why it happens, but it's sort of the Bruce Springsteen effect, right?
Tell me what the Bruce Springsteen effect is.
Like Born in the USA.
Oh,
People
yeah,
think that's right. Yeah. So people will look at these, especially on social media, of course. They'll look at these and they'll think, cool.
Guns.
Skulls, guns, demons. It's all the shit that I love. That's cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Without any sense of what, the whole juxtaposition of that's supposed to mean. And, I don't know what to do with that, to be honest. It's strange.
That's got to be that's got to be really frustrating. I mean, to some degree, because don't you feel like your message is a little bit lost on that person?
No, yeah, I mean, sure, I guess. I mean, I'm kind of expecting it. I mean, when I was doing the research for this, I would wind up on like Reddit or whatever, talking about guns with like crazy militia guys, you know what I mean? So I kind of knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's all right, I guess. It happens. I don't know what you're gonna you can, it does open up a discussion if you're in that particular instance where you can do that.
Yeah, well, I think it's a fine line of being horrified and awestruck by the beauty. I mean, even for you as the artist, like, you do have a message going across, but you have a great appreciation for these objects. I mean, you've taken a lot of time to craft it, and just looking at the thought processes behind it. I mean, even the intent of the flowers, these beautiful, dried, living things coming out of this and just bursting apart. It's so violent and so beautiful, and I can tell you're kind of awestruck by it too. So having an observer come to that with maybe not that level of being awestruck, I mean, I can understand that.
Yeah, I can understand that too. And I'm going to throw John Park's comment up on the screen. This is a new John Park comment that says, "This is a great piece. It reminds me in some way of the echo of a cartoon version of flowers coming out of a rifle. But this one is very deadly serious and has the roses of death imagery that make you stop in your tracks."
Yep, that's right. I was actually thinking of that cartoon. And also the image. There's more than one image of the
Vietnam.
Back in the 60s when they're putting the
flowers in the guns.
Flowers in the barrels of the guns of the riot. I think they were riot police, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Yeah.
We have a first time viewer named Aggravated who says, "Yes, go Glenn jammin'." So You may or may not know who that
That's good.
is, but and Sherry in the Sky says wonderful craftsmanship, strong work. So you're getting some good feedback here. Kent State University, yeah, that's right. That's Mike Rader's saying, reminding us that that was at Kent
Oh
State.
yeah.
Alan Wexler is here, and he says, "Do the titles help us see the irony in your work?" That's a great question. That's a great question.
So, like, what's the title of this piece? I guess we can start.
Yeah,
there.
we should.
So the titles of all the sculpture were related. So there's three-dimensional pieces, and I felt like they had some relation to the body and to, you know, as if they were like living beings in a sense. And this one's called In the Bones. I was thinking of the dry, brittle roses as almost like, you know, dried bones. And the imagery on there is skeletal. You know, there's a skeleton, the angel of death, and there's, you know, rose imagery, and there's death imagery, skulls, whatever.
Yeah. Let's jump to another sculpture piece momentarily, because this one's in the very middle of the show on the table when you walk in.
Right.
And this is the only shot of this I have to show the viewers. But I think this is a really interesting piece. But can you talk to us a little bit about what's going on here?
So I guess this one, I wanted to talk about the relation between the mind and the hand, and then the development of making these objects that we hold to use. And in this case, you know, being the gun. So I took two different sides of the brain, which also relates to, you know, different sides of our being in many different ways, left and right. You could even see that as political, I suppose. And making a correlation between that and the hands of the guns. There was a lot going on in this, like, you know, thinking about the economics of all this, the fear, power politics, the bullets. There's bullets on the side there. On one side it says wealth, and the other side it says power. And then, of course, the gunpowder container says fear. And on the back side it says left and right. So it's sort of a dueling. I was thinking about, you know, how you know, conservative versus liberal arguments over the gun debate, and where I could push this, basically.
Yeah, and
to dueling case.
There's a couple things coming up in the chat I want to mention really quickly. So first of all, it's aggravated or aggravated, because I didn't have my glasses on and I thought it said aggravated, but it says this is Agatha, and it's
Agatha.
Glenjamin, like Benjamin, but Glenjamin. So just to correct on that one. And Mike Rader's asking why 11 bullets, but I think you said that's wealth and power, right? And those are the letters that spell those two things out.
Also, yeah, for that, but also there's a few reasons. When the revolver was first invented by Colt, it was a 5-bullet revolver, and then that graduated to a 6 revolver, and then the Glock that I encountered, or Glocks in general, I guess, are 11. Each of the clips have 11 rounds in them.
Gotcha. And, you know, there's also something really interesting about the notion of, number one, the idea of we make the objects make us, the notion that, you know, there's this gesture of the hand to sort of imply the gun. And then number 3, there's this notion of that whole argument that guns don't kill people, people kill people. And this is both the gun and the person in this kind of combined sort of situation. So I think it's a really, I love this piece for those, you know, multiple layered sort of elements that are present in it. I had another detailed shot of that. Sorry about that. I didn't get that up before. I wanted to throw that in there. Right. So you can see some of the various castings that make this up. You can see it sort of, I guess that's sort of in your studio in the left there before it was installed in the gallery. Is that right?
Right.
Gotcha. Okay, let's move on. Now, so there's some pieces. Can we go to the back of the gallery and look at some of the pieces back there?
I would love that.
Okay. Any preference to where we start, or should we go with the sculpture?
Go with the sculpture.
Okay.
Right.
So Jess Park is saying, I like the hint of yin and yang in the placement of the guns
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Ah, good
That's
point.
a good observation.
Good observation.
Yeah.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this one.
So this one.
I know Terry's wanted to talk.
I've got questions about it, but I wanted to hear, I guess, a little bit about what you have to say about it.
This one was sort of fully formed in my head and I just kind of went about making it. Whereas the other one that was in the window, I kind of improvised, all the parts. I didn't know what the parts would be. I kind of had to figure it out. But this one just all clicked and popped, and I knew exactly what to do. I really wanted to make a connection between, I was almost thinking about Frankenstein, Frankenstein's monster. That these instruments, these, supposedly inert objects, are the monster. They're the things we create, and they're alive, and I wanted this thing to be almost as if it were, just leaking blood. And there it is.
There's a comment that I missed from John Park. He says, in the early Colt 45 6-shooters, people would only load 5 bullets, so they would not have a bullet underneath the hammer. It was a safety measure invented by the people who use the firearms. It's kind of interesting also, right?
Yeah.
And contributes to the 5 versus 6.
Right.
All right, so back to this one, back to the Frankenstein image. So we've got some close-ups of this so everybody can kind of see what's going on in this sort of hybrid thing that you have here, which is to me, it's really fascinating the way in which, like, especially coming off of the two hands that we just saw a minute ago, and how they sort of create this organic versus mechanical object in this box. This now becomes a much more humanistic, living, breathing thing. So when you say that it's a living object, can we get into that a little bit? Because that to me is a really interesting element to how you sort of think when you make these things.
Yeah, I mean, while I was doing the research for this, I was reading a lot of object-oriented ontology, which is all about, like, sort of the life of the objects, that these things are sort of, as they have kind of an essence or a life force in them. We sort of birth them when we create them, invent them, create them. So, I don't know. That's really about it, I guess. I don't know how much further do you want to go in there.
Well, there's also this notion that there's also this notion of the general element of design that's taken place over the years in a thing like this, and you nail it when you make the piece that is the gun that is the hand, right? Because the gun fits in the hand. Okay, so we can start as simple as that, and then what I read from there is whenever we work out the design problem and we're trying to make a thing better or solve a problem that needs solving, we're looking at making something either more efficient or better at what it does. Therefore, the design of a thing like this that fits in the hand and it has one purpose, right? We're basically working at making that purpose more efficient or more effective. And so to that nature, to that notion that it has to become more ergonomic, it has to become quicker for the body to use it, it does have, I love the way you say that, because that to me says it's extension of the body as an appendage, as a prosthetic. It does have a life, right?
Right. Exactly. And I was thinking of this one as sort of like an extended, almost like pulmonary system or a vein, or even other things. It's a little bit limp, like the limp penis, I suppose, but never really like being direct with it, sort of, which is funny. The drawings are also direct, and this one I was just kind of glancing off of several different ideas, but I really just wanted this to be sort of like a like a human on the operating table bleeding out, to be kind of, without, being absolutely, illustrative in that kind of way.
Yeah. Ben Hagenbush is asking, Glenn, do you work in metal as well when you create these rifles? If not, you do an amazing job of making it look like metal. But I believe you are working, and you've worked in all the different materials here.
Well, I've worked in metal before, and I thought about doing metal casting for these, but because I wanted that, in both cases, I wanted the red and the black to be really part of the material, the color to be part of the material. It just was easier to use like a resin, a dyed resin.
Yeah.
And that worked pretty well with this one, I think, too.
Mike Rader is saying that's such a great piece. We give the weapon our blood as it takes from others. And 63 is saying, been spending time with some Beatles videos over the past few weeks. In light of John Lennon's killing, some of these are tough to look at.
I'm sure.
Wow. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can keep going through these. You had some questions. You had a really good question for Glenn, though, regarding
this piece.
Yeah.
I don't really have the question so much anymore. I was curious as to
Oh, you turned it into more of a comment, right?
Yeah, it was more of the detail. Because when you work on the guns and your drawings and your sculptures, your attention to detail with the guns is so precise. You know the history, specifications and everything like that. And when you were hooking up the IV stuff in the blood, your attention to detail struck me as like there's something you kind of don't. This is the nursing thing, right?
She's a nurse.
I'm a nurse.
You're in trouble.
It wasn't as important. It didn't matter. Like it just, if you can give the abstract version of these life-saving measures or nourishment, that was your gist of it. And to me, it just seems such a great commentary on the situation because we don't know how to fix this stuff, And to me, that's what that represented. It's like we're just throwing anything we can at the problem on both sides, right? Because they're throwing it at the guns and we're throwing it at, gun safety.
Well, and
that was the commentary that came through to me. Like, it doesn't matter. It's almost like when COVID came out too, there's these renegade medical tactics to try to fix something because we don't know. We don't know.
Well, I love what Terry's saying here because it's almost like what we were just talking about with the design problem and the efficiency of this thing as a killing machine. And it just keeps getting more and more powerful, more and more able to tear apart a human body. And at the same time, leaving the attention to detail out of the medical apparatus is almost appropriate because it's almost as if there is not a means. I know people that work in trauma centers that are just like, I don't know what the hell to do with people that have suffered wounds from these situations because they're impossible to repair.
Triage can be a very funny thing. Like sometimes there's protocols, but sometimes you go into disaster mode. And disasters can be planned to a certain extent, but after a while, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
there's a couple of really good comments I want to throw at you, Glenn, that are really, really good. So Boo Jazz says, the conceptualization of these works are so far beyond most modern art with a touch of Lynchian surrealism. They resensitize us to the horror of gun violence. And then 63 throws in there, there is a Boysian quality to these as well. Sort of. Yeah, there is. Because, to me, the latex is a little bit like the Joseph Beuys's fat stuff. And then there's this whole, Beuys's kind of whole story about World War II and getting shot out of the plane and the myth surrounding that. There's kind of a myth that's associated with some of these things where you're sort of putting in these stories around what could have happened with the earlier historical replicas. And then John Park says, 63, you read my mind. I was actually just thinking that myself, but wasn't going to say anything. So there's a good conversation germinating here around these. And I love that Boysian comment. I think that's and the Lynch thing too. It's sort of like Boys and Lynch kind of brought together here a little bit. So for what it's worth, I think that's actually quite good. Oh my God, it's 8:58. Can we
Go.
What's that?
Go.
All right, we're gonna move on.
Go to
Do you have a piece you want to? Do you want a piece you want to look at, or can I show?
I don't know.
Go
Not
anywhere?
necessarily. I mean, if you want to go to the early work or the after work, I guess. I don't know.
Well, one thing I do want to show, I want to show some of your ballpoint pen drawings just to show some of the early work and some of your
Sure.
attention to detail. Can I throw that up there? Because
Go for it.
I used to watch you work on these and I thought, man, oh man, oh man. First of all, I just couldn't figure out where you had the time machine hidden that allowed you to spend so much damn time on these. I mean,
Everybody says that. I don't know. I don't know either. I don't. Time doesn't exist when I make these. You know.
Well, that's really beautiful. And here it is. 63 says, so was he a trumpet player? No, 63, he wasn't, but he's very carefully avoided some of the music conversation here.
Yes.
You should plug that sucker into an amplifier and just go crazy.
And you you have a degree in music as well?
I went to music school. Yeah. Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Berkeley.
So, yeah. And, you know, I was interested in terms of this drawing, and there was another one I sent you. I was interested in making correlations between car parts and musical instruments and other things of this sort, because they have similar, you know, the valves and all that fun stuff. And I usually do this kind of thing when I don't understand an object or a mechanical thing. And, you know, I would get car problems and the mechanic would tell me such and such a thing was busted, or I had no idea what the fuck he was talking about. So I would draw it. I'd be like, okay, so how does that work? And drawing it made me understand it. So I would do these more elaborate kinds of things afterwards.
Yeah, you've done this a couple of times. So I love that fusion of these two things here, the two seemingly disparate but similar things. And then you did that with that whole entire scholarly essay you wrote about the connections between sports and art, which is unlike anything I've ever read. And I loved the connections you made there. And then you curated an entire exhibition around that, which was brilliant. And I mean, so you have a way of taking, I think, things that don't typically work together, bringing them together to recontextualize and understand the two elements even better, which is really kind of cool. And that works its way into the Frankenstein gun piece in the show for sure, right?
Right.
63 says, Berkeley, do they have a music program? He's referring to the Berkeley College of Music in Boston, Massachusetts.
Boston, not California,
not
right?
Berkeley, California, right? Which most people get confused with. I've found.
Right. It's even spelled differently. It's named after Lee Burke. Just right. So they just switched the names around. Berkeley, I guess.
63
so
is
weird.
saying it was a joke, and I had a feeling 63 knew that, because 63 is very up on his academic programs and things like that. So he's messing around. John Park says, if Glenn knows who Val McCallum is, he might find this funny. Val's son calls Val's guitar the old man stick.
It's funny anyway. I don't need to know who that is.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know. That sounds very familiar. I don't know that name.
Okay, well, maybe that's one worth looking up too. So there's that one, and then there's another one here with the whole engine series that you are working on, which is really quite beautiful.
Right.
Yeah, and we see some elements even with the floral design relating back to some of the calligraphy and some of the pieces for the show.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure, and I like both the sort of, and it doesn't necessarily stand out in the gun pieces, but it does and it doesn't, and that is there's of course a sexual nature to the flower, right, which I think does exist in a drawing like the one we're seeing here, and also sort of distantly is related to the whole gun thing and this notion of, pumped up masculinity, that sort of kind of. There's that whole conversation, of course, that we didn't even touch on, but I think also
I was really tempted to do, but I mean, I feel like so many artists have already done the penis gun thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like how many times can that be said?
Right.
And it looks like fun, to make that. It would be kind of cool, but I just felt like it was just touched on too often, but it's totally there. I mean, you know, we make things based on our own bodies, and there's nothing that says penis like a gun.
Right.
You know,
That's
Right.
true.
Right.
really.
John,
And nothing represents, you know, patriarchal power than that as well. You know, it's
yeah, definitely.
interesting.
Yeah.
John Park is saying definitely look him up. Longtime guitar player for Jackson Brown and an amazing player.
Mm.
Oh,
So
yeah. Now I know. Yeah. Mhm.
okay. 63 said these are cool. I see that there seems to be a title block, kind of like an engineer drawing.
Yeah.
So
So a lot of these, and you know, that's even true of some of the gun drawings, the early demon ones. I'm like just absolutely fascinated with different kinds of illustration. So I often use illustration as a vehicle in the work. So botanical illustration, mechanical illustration,
Mhm.
you know, those always make their way into the work. And you know, using the architectural paper in this instance was really convenient because it just gave me the frame,
Mm.
you know,
Gotcha.
where all this could live. And I
yeah,
didn't have to like keep making the world grow, which I did in other pieces, but this one, you know, or these series, I could just kind of let the border work.
right. Well, 63 says it's a nice touch. Well, let's look at what you're doing now really quickly, because I think the gun thing sort of exhausted itself for you now that you've kind of had the show. You've moved on to some new drawings that you're currently working on. We wanted to throw a few of these in here. We are definitely we're kind of on the end of the time limit, and I don't want to keep you past what we said. But
Sure.
just talk to us really quickly about what you've got going right now, like what's in the hopper.
Well, before I was doing the gun series, I had been taking a lot of advanced education courses, and I wanted to do some work on education. I didn't know what it was, so I put it on hold when the gun thing happened. You know, I didn't really want to do the whole gun thing. It's just so direct, and you know, but I dove into that, and then I felt like, you know, now what am I going to do after this? And it feels like I needed to come up with an anti-object, an anti-gun object. And I couldn't think of anything better than a book, you know,
Gotcha.
in so many different ways. You know, I feel like in a way the gun, as complex as it is kind of dumb. And the book, as, you know, simple, it's just a rectangle, you know, is, you know, infinitely complex. You know?
I love that. Yeah.
So I was trying to wash out all that gun shit out of my system and make books or drawings of books.
That's a beautiful way to sort of bring it back
it's like
around.
the antidote.
The antidote.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Right.
Yeah.
Well,
and you know, with these, what I was starting to do in the gun pieces with the washes in the back of those larger gun drawings, they become more and more abstract. So I was kind of playing around with how to make this abstract thing and then put this representational thing on top of it and make them kind of live together some kind of way.
Yeah.
And I think I'm still playing with that, so we'll see where it goes.
Well, I'm looking forward to see where it goes. I like some of the sculptures you're up to also. Which
Right.
I'm excited to see. And Alan Wexler says books can be as dangerous as guns.
True. Very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, very true.
Right.
Sometimes not with all the carnage, but you know, sometimes with it. Glenn, for those of you who want to see, go ahead, because I think you were gonna say something, right?
No, go ahead. No, go.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say, for those of you that want to see more of Glenn's work, you can follow him on Instagram at Glenn LaVertu. Definitely go and follow him so you can kind of see what he's going through and working on. Like, he does post some process shots, so you can kind of see how these things develop, which I always find to be one of the best ways
I do like seeing that thought process, works in progress.
Yeah, for sure. Glenn, thanks. We really appreciate you coming on and talking about this. Your show is only up until is it open tomorrow? All right, so you've got one more day to get to Torrington, Connecticut, and see this. Alan Wexler says, congratulations, great work. Jess Park says, this was great. Really enjoyed all of Glenn's works. Mike Rader Potato Head says, congratulations on a great, tough show, Glenn. Pumpkin Audrey says, what a show. Thank you, John Park. Really enjoyed the work and the interview. Congratulations on the show. Mom says, Glenn, you're amazing. Love your work. That's from my mom.
Hi, Mom. I know I haven't. I haven't seen her in so long.
I know. She's a loyal supporter of the show. Glenn, thanks so much. We really appreciate you you coming
Thank you,
on.
guys. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Thanks
we'll be
for
talking to
coming
you
and-
soon. Take care of yourself. All right. Bye-bye. Okay, we're gonna head back over here for a minute,
Yes.
and that was good.
It was, and I have to say, that is such a hard topic to do a show on, and to be so courageous and brave, and to talk about it without this tension behind it, and to just put it out there. It takes a lot. It's a really good artist that can do that.
I know, and oftentimes that type of subject matter, it's like one of those things where you're going to put that out in the world,
Yeah.
and you got to steel up. You got to
do.
get ready for the other side.
You do.
And one of the things that Glenn does so well is he his research is so thorough. Like when he sits down to really talk to you about both sides of this, he has read all the literature on both sides of this argument, not just sort of fed his own, sort of reinforced his own
Right.
belief system already.
Right.
So, I got to give him credit on that.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we've got a few more things coming in here. Let's see. Really enjoyed the show and the interview. Congratulations on the show from John Park. We've read that already. JD Painter, thank you. Great share. Josh, thanks for coming to the show tonight. We're really looking forward to talking to you. So great to see you here. Ben says, great show, guys. Thank you very much. Mom is saying, hi, nice seeing you to Glenn. Great show tonight from her. Glenn is awesome. To all of you guys out there, number one, thank you so much. We really appreciate you sticking with us and being here. Number two, just a quick plug for the shows that are coming up. So, again, next week, Dean Snyder, fantastic sculptor. You're going to love meeting this guy. I cannot wait to talk to him. The week after that, we have Elsa Riveros, who is actually and I'm not even surprised by this, but just, we've been uncovering things about her.
I love her.
That
so
are
really excited about having her on.
Terri starts to bounce up and down when she realizes that we're going to talk to Elsa Rivera, so that's a really cool one.
Yep.
Then, of course, we got Pam Glick the week after that.
Very excited about that, too.
So we've got a awesome lineup. We're excited.
Yeah.
We're excited.
Yeah.
So anyway, on that note, episode 73 in the bag. Cheers to you. Everybody, you guys all have a great night. We will see you next week. Cheers.
Cheers.